Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Pendulum Magician deck profile. So I'm really excited for this one because this is actually a Patreon request deck profile for Awalt. So Awalt asked me to make this deck, wanted a really insane, really crazy, over-the-top Pendulum deck, and I think I did it with Pendulum Magicians. I mean, what better deck to do that with than Pendulum Magicians, especially with Joker being back at 1 and Double Iris being at 2, which I'm really excited to actually see because this is really big. This is like getting Stratos back at 1 for heroes. This is really amazing that this card actually came back to 1. So without further ado guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell there so you can come part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon on the description below for all those awesome rewards like getting your name searched for a single video, getting assigned cards in the mail, and even getting to request a deck profile every single month you're a patron along with test hands. And definitely give Awalt some love down in the comments down below because they requested this deck and it is a really fun deck to be able to play around with. So let's get straight on into this guys. So first off, we're going to be playing the one of Skullcrabat Joker. So we can only play one Skullcrabat Joker, and what this card does is you cannot Pendulum summon monsters except for Perform Pal monsters, Magician Pendulum monsters, and Odd Eyes monsters. This effect cannot be negated. That's totally fine because the normal summon effect is going to be pretty much the only effect that we're going to be worrying about at all. Because when this card is normal summoned, you can add one Perform Pal monster, Magician Pendulum monster, or Odd Eyes monster from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself, which is a very easy, like, normal summon to your side of the field and grab what you need. We then play a single copy of Perform Pal Celestial Magician. Now this card is a very interesting card to play as a one-of in this deck, and is a very good card as well that has the ability that well is exactly one face-up fusion synchro or XZ monster you control that was special summon from the extra deck is destroyed by battle or by an opponent's card effect. You can special summon that monster, then destroy this card. You can only use effect this card once per turn. It also has the ability that during your main phase, if this card is normal summon or special summon this turn, then you can apply one of the effects for the rest of the turn, depending on the number of, or depending on the type of monsters you control. If you control a fusion, this card can attack directly. If you control a synchro, your opponent cannot activate card or monster effects. If you control an XZ, this card's attack becomes double. And if you control a pendulum during the end phase, you add a pendulum monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of this card once per turn. We then play two copies of Perform Pal Pendulum Sorcerer. I wanted to play a little bit of a Perform Pal engine, and so these two are the two that I actually summon off of the Pendulum Sorcerer, and he has a very unique effect as well. His main monster effect is going to be where it's at for this card. If this card is special summon, you can target it to two cards you control, destroy them. If you do, you get to add Perform Pal monsters with different names from your deck to your hand, except another copy of himself. Equal number of cards destroyed by this effect. So you're usually going to pop two cards on your field and then add these two to hand, at least the Joker, when you Pendulum summon out your copy of Sorcerer, because the copy of your Perform Pal Skullcrabat will then give you a search, which is going to be really helpful. We then play for the Pendulum Magicians. We're going to be playing three copies of Harmonizing Magician. Harmonizing Magician is a great card. Its monster effect is going to be the Amazing effect. It cannot be special summoned from the extra deck, which is not that big of a deal because we have cards that can add it back to hand from extra deck. And it can't be used through the synchro summon of a synchro monster except for the Magician Pendulum monster. And then when this card is Pendulum summoned from your hand, then you get to special summon one Magician Pendulum monster from your deck. In defense position, except one Magician Pendulum monster from your deck. In defense position, except another copy of Harmonizing Magician, and its effects are negated but banish it when it leaves the field. So it's a really good effect just to be able to get you another monster in your field, so you can go for an 8 synchro or go for some other plays in this particular deck. So you have a lot of different utility that you can go into with your Harmonizing Magician. We then play three copies of Wisdom Eye Magician. Wisdom Eye Magician is fantastic. Its effect is that if a magician, or if you have a magician or a Perform Pal card in your other Pendulum zone, then you can destroy this card and then place a Magician Pendulum monster from your deck in your other pendulums, or in this Pendulum zone that this card was in. It also has the ability that you can discard this card, then target a card in your Pendulum zone whose current Pendulum scale is different from its original level, and it becomes its original level, which never ever comes up in this deck. We then play my personal favorite of all the Pendulum Magicians, and that is Oaf Dragon Magician. This card has so much versatility in this card as a 3-of. I love this card as a 3-of in this deck because it has the ability that if you have a Magician card in your other Pendulum zone, you can add one face-up Magician or Odd Eyes Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, which is usually going to be Harmonizing, because Harmonizing combos very well with this card to be able to just immediately add that card back from your hand. If it is normal or special summon, you can target a Magician Pendulum monster or Odd Eyes red-eyes card in your graveyard and then add that target back to your hand as well. It comes in really handy when you combo with Harmonizing Magician to be able to add her back to hand. We then play 2 copies of Double Iris Magician, which the monster effect is the main card that you're going to be activating on this, that if it's destroyed by battle or by card effect, you can add 1 Pentagraph card from your deck to your hand. It also has the ability in its Pendulum scale that once per turn you can target a dark spellcaster type monster you control, apply this effect, then destroy this card to double any battle damage inflicted to your opponent by that monster this turn. You play 2 copies of Purple Poison. Purple Poison is also very good in this deck because once per turn, if your dark spellcaster type monster battles or before damage calculation, you can activate this effect to make it gain 1200 attack as well, which is pretty good to be able to just immediately gain that attack. And if this card is destroyed battle by card effect, you can target a face-up card on the field and destroy it. We then play just a single copy of Black Fang. Black Fang has the ability that once per turn you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls. His attack becomes half its current attack, and then if you do, destroy this card. And its monster effects, this card is destroyed battle by card effect, then you can target 1 dark spellcaster monster in your graveyard and special summon it, which also rarely comes up. We then play a single copy of Dragon Pit. Dragon Pit is basically MST in your spell and trap card zone when it's in your Pendulum scale, because once per turn, if you have a Magician card in your other Pendulum zone, then you can discard a Pendulum monster to target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it, which helps you get rid of cards like Mystic Mind and other problematic cards that your opponent might have against you. We play 3 copies of Curtain Raiser. Curtain Raiser is basically a special summon for free once per duel, because if you control no monsters, you can instantly special summon this card from your hand, or not from your hand, but from your Pendulum zone to your side of the field, which is going to be your first turn play. One of your other first turn plays is 3 copies of Darkworm. Darkworm has the ability that if you control no monsters, you can place the Supreme King Gate Pendulum monster from your deck in your other Pendulum zone. And if this card is normal or special summon, you get to add your Supreme King Gate monster from your deck to your hand. And if this card's in the graveyard and you control no monsters, you can special summon this card to your side of the field, which then will get you the search of your Gate 0. Gate 0 is basically just here because it's a level 7 monster and it's a 0 scale. So that's it for the Pendulum monsters. Let's get into the regular monsters that we play in this deck. So we're going to be playing 3 copies of Tuning Magician. Tuning Magician is basically here because she is a synchro tuner, or she's not a synchro tuner, but she's a tuner monster that helps you go into synchro monsters, and it's stuff like Needle Fiber, and she has the ability, if you control 2 Magician cards in your Pendulum zone, while this card's in your hand or grave, you can special summon this card, but banish it when it leaves the field, and you can only use the effect of this card once per turn, and if this card is normal or special summon, your opponent gains 400 and you take 400. This card comes up a lot in this deck. It is the central focus, usually, of the deck to be able to go into this card around Needle Fiber and go into some really good plays, especially with Harmonizing and this card going to Needle, or Harmonizing and any other card going to Needle Fiber, and then this is going to be your big Needle Fiber target that you're going to be trying to special summon from the deck. It's never bad to draw into this card because getting this card in your hand just guarantees you another special summon usually. We then play a single copy of Artifact Scythe. Artifact Scythe is one of the most pivotal cards in the entire deck because you're going to want to summon Dagda first, and then once you summon out your copy of your Dagda to your side of the field, you're going to set this card to your side of the field when you activate another card effect, which then is essentially going to lock your opponent out of the extra deck, which is going to be great, which you guys will definitely see during the test hands as well. And it's very, very consistent. We then play 1 copy of Red Eyes Black Dragon and a single Dark Magician because I chose to play Dragoons in this deck. You don't have to. It is a 43 card deck. You can drop the Dragoons package if you want to, but I do not recommend dropping it. It does come in very, very handy in this deck to be able to throw out a Red Eyes Dark Dragoon on your side of the field at the end of your combo, especially going to your next turn, because basically you're trying to lock down your opponent's normal summon. So at that point, when you Artifact Scythe them and you have a Dragoons, you're basically going to stop their entire turn because you're going to stop them from touching the extra deck. Then you're going to Dragoons them and be able to stop them from their normal summon from activating a monster effect. So they're not going to get a search off. They're not going to get a special summon off. They're basically just going to turn their entire turn off, which is great. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. We don't need any hand traps in this deck. So for the spells, we're playing a single copy of Red Eyes Fusion. Red Eyes Fusion is basically here to summon out your copy of your Red Eyes Dark Dragoon and send to the graveyard off your copy of your Anaconda. We play a single copy of Foolish Burial, which is basically just here as additional copies of Dragon Shrine, which we play 2 copies of. These are basically just here. All 3 of these cards are just here to send Darkworm from your deck to the graveyard. That's the big effect of your copies of your Foolish Burial and your Dragon Shrine that you're trying to get off in this deck. I will mention too, as we go through the deck too, these cards actually are not bricks at all in this deck because you can Pendulum summon out, which is kind of neat. We then play a single copy of Star Pentagraph. I just play one. You can play two. I just chose to play one. Your opponent cannot target spellcaster monster you control spell effects, and if a face-up magician pendulum monster leaves the field or pendulum zone, then you can add a magician pendulum monster from your deck to your hand, which is very helpful to add different pendulum monsters from your deck to your hand. We then play 3 copies of Duelist Alliance. Duelist Alliance is if there is a card in the pendulum zone, you can add a pendulum monster or Pendulum, Spell, or Trap from your deck to your hand, which is very powerful as well. And then we play 2 copies of Pendulum Call to round out the monsters. I will mention, you guys, the only downside of this card is it conflicts with your copy of Wisdom Eye Magician, because Wisdom Eye cannot pop itself because it does destroy itself. It doesn't just send itself to the extra deck. And this card prevents your Pendulum monsters from being able, or Pendulum spellcasters from being destroyed, or your Magician Pendulum monsters from destroying themselves for the rest of the turn, so it kind of conflicts a little bit with your Wisdom Eye, but you're only playing 2, so it kind of like doesn't really come up all that often that you're going to get both in the same hand. But what it does is you discard a card to add 2 Magician Pendulum monsters with different names from your deck to your hand. It can, if you have something like a copy of Darkworm in hand, it can essentially turn into a +2 because you'll discard the Darkworm. The Darkworm will special summon itself back, and then you'll get an extra search off of the Darkworm, and then you'll get 2 off of this, so you use 2 cards to get actually it kind of turns into a +3 because you also get a monster on your field as well. So you get a search of 3, a monster on the field, and a discard. So this card is very good in the deck. But like I said, it does also have the ability that after this card resolves, magician cards in your Pendulum Zone cannot be destroyed by card effects. And you only activate 1 of this card per turn, and you cannot activate this turn if you activate Magician Pendulum Monster effect this turn already. So it kind of already counteracts your copy of your Wisdom Eye. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the single trap that we're playing. And is a single copy of Time Pentagraph. Time Pentagraph I just play as a 1-of in here. Time Pentagraph basically has the ability that it's kind of like Scrap Dragon. Your opponent cannot target your spellcaster you control with traps, but it also has a Scrap Dragon effect that you can only use the following effect of this card once per turn. You can target a Magician Pendulum you control and or a card in your opponent's side of the field, or excuse me, you can target one on your side of the field and then or in your Pendulum Zone. And then you can target 1 card your opponent controls and destroy that. And if this effect did not destroy 2 cards, then you can send a card on the field to the graveyard instead, if it doesn't destroy 2 cards. So you have a lot of utility just with this card to be able to pop stuff. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So for the extra deck, we're going to be playing a single copy of Time Star. Time Star is basically just here as a searcher because he has the ability that once per turn you can detach a material from him to add a dark spellcaster monster from your deck graveyard or face it from your extra deck to your hand. And once per turn, if a Pendulum monster, or if monster cards in your monster zone or Pendulum Zone will be destroyed by battle by card effect, you can send a spellcaster monster from your deck to the graveyard instead, which can usually be your copy of your Tuning Magician, so this card comes in very, very handy. Tornado Dragon is the only other XZ that we really play in this deck. The Tornado Dragon basically is just here to pop your copy of Scythe, which is really good, and pop your opponent's back row. Dagda, because it grabs Scythe out of the out of the deck so fast, and this card is going to be the first link monster you're going to go to. Those zones are really helpful. It just requires 2 monsters with different names as well, so you can use stuff like Red Eyes Black Dragon, Dark Magician if you have to Pendulum summon them out for this card. I just play 1 copy of Needle Fiber. I know a lot of other lists play 2, but I don't ever find myself needing the second one in this list. Usually once I establish my board, I'm pretty confident that I don't need the second one, so I just play 1. If you're not going to play the Dragoons package, definitely play 2, but I just don't see the need for it in my build. But what this card does is basically when it's link summon, you get special summon a level 3 or lower tuner monster from the deck, and also it has the ability that you can tribute this card during your opponent's during your opponent's turn, main phase or battle phase. You can banish this card to be able to special summon 1 tuner synchro monster from your extra deck, and it does count as a synchro summon, which is the very important effect of this card. 1 copy of Anaconda to go into Dragoons. I play 2 copies of Selene. The 2 Selenes are so pivotal in this deck because this card has the ability that for every spell in your field and in the graveyard it gets a counter. You can remove 3 counters from this card, special summon a spellcaster from the graveyard to a zone this card points to in defense position, which is pretty good. 1 copy of Access Code because you can pop a lot of cards on the field with this card and it gets really big. Appaloosa because you can establish this card. I established during the test hands, I believe. I've already taken the test hands. I established like 8 negates on the field with this deck, and Appaloosa was 4 of them, so it was really, really good to get Appaloosa out on the field. We play a single copy of Borreload Savage. Borreload Savage usually comes out for me on turn 2 after I've already gone through my first turn because I've already established Dragoons and I've already established Scythe, so this card kind of just cleans up the board. I play 1 copy of Ignister for stuff that I just can't deal with Dragoons because it lets you target a Pendulum monster on the field or 1 Pendulum monster and you destroy it, and if you do, you shuffle 1 card in the field into the deck, and then once per turn, you can special summon 1 Draco Slayer monster in the deck. I don't play any Draco Slayers in the deck. You can play Luster Pendulum if you want to, but I just don't have the room. Like, I'm already playing 43. You can play the 44th if you want to play 1 Luster in the deck, but it didn't come up. It kind of clogged when I played it. We then play a single copy of F.A. Dawn Dragster. This card is not the hardest to go into. You usually go into this card with an Oaf Dragon plus a Tuning Magician, so it's pretty easy to go into. You play a single copy of Wonder Magician. Wonder Magician is really, really good because if this card is Singer Summon, you can just target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it, which is going to be Scythe that you're going to be destroying with this card. Quandrax is really neat because if you don't get the Scythe off and you have Needle Fiber on field and you have another level 4, you can actually go Quandrax plus another Pendulum monster during your opponent's turn to go into Ignister, and then it will bounce something, which is pretty good. Or you can go into Borreload Savage to get you additional negations. And then I play a single copy of Dragoons because Dragoons is nuts. And it negates stuff, and it pops stuff, and it burns your opponent. It can't be targeted, can't be destroyed. It's just really good. Like, it's really good in this deck, too, because it just works with the whole Spellcaster package, and it's such a good card. So, that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. It's a really fun deck to be able to play around with. I hope you guys definitely give this deck a try, and definitely give Awalt some love down in the comments down below, because this deck is absolutely bonkers. It's super fun to be able to play around with. I'm really excited that Awalt actually requested this one because it actually, like, I wasn't going to do test hands for this one. I might have profiled it later on, but this deck is just so good now to be able to play, and it's just really an amazing deck. So anyways, guys, this is Dark Arm Duels. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell on there so you can become part of the notification squad, and we'll see you guys in the next video. See you later, guys.